Hello and welcome back to the Nerd Rundown's review of episode 4 of the Loki TV series titled The Nexus Event, which shows us that loving yourself hard enough can create a branch in the timeline. I'm your host, Darren Stemple, and with me are two very handsome men, Brett King and Morgan Santo. Welcome, gentlemen, to the Loki review. Welcome back, I should say. How are you guys?
Welcome to my show. This is
honored to have you two
on my podcast, and I'm here to welcome Morgan and Darren.
You got a side podcast going, Brett?
Yeah, I just keep the recordings that you guys do, and I just have my own thing.
Okay.
Better be careful. The TVA might show up in a race.
I just watch it with my dog, though. It's just me and Tess.
Oh man. Well, welcome to the show. Very excited to talk more about this show with you guys. Great conversation last week. Now, episode 4 was an incredible episode of TV. So let's dig right into it. Right off the bat, it gave us, not right off the bat in the show, but right off the bat after the show, one big question that it left us with, and we'll answer this later on, is who's running the TVA, right? That was a big old question left at the end. So let's get into it. It's kind of who's running it or who created it and who's running it now. So we'll talk about that. The show started off in Asgard. We're brought back to Asgard. I liked coming up from behind the palace. Looked a little bit more muted than the shiny colors that we've gotten in the MCU. So right off the bat, kind of showed us that we're in a different timeline. And we see young Sylvie playing with her toys. She gets taken by the TVA, and this is the line where she said in the previous week, I've been running from the TVA my whole life. And so now we get to see why she said that.
I think there was a nod to us because we had that toy episode, and then they had her playing with toys, and there was a nod to us.
They knew.
Which I think was a nice touch.
Peggy was like, we got to switch this up. Throwing a toy.
It goes back to the conversation we were just having, Brad, about Kevin Feige, big fan of the show. Made sure to throw a little nod at the Nerd Rundown. So she gets taken to the TVA as a young girl, I don't know, 10, 12 years old.
Liam Neeson does not come to save her.
No. His special set of skills are not put to use.
A deleted scene.
It's a deleted scene. She gets, put through the same process that Loki does, and we see it from a different perspective. Clearly, because she's a young girl, it's going to be from a different perspective. But also, you could tell this is a long time ago. The guy with the stack of papers of what she said her whole life. It's a smaller stack. He's got a different haircut. He doesn't have his cat in the picture. So it was really interesting to see that different perspective. And then she gets put on trial, and the agent that took her, the Minuteman that took her, was Ravonna Renslayer. So before she was a judge, she was a Minuteman, taking people out of the timeline and bringing them to trial. Of course, we see Sylvie escape. A little interesting that Ravonna didn't try harder to go after her. And then we see the next scene we see is
you mean
Ravonna,
at all.
At all.
Right,
yeah.
That was a pretty hard stomp to her foot. Or
that's like when
she did to get away.
She was just like,
just watch it hit the ground. There's nothing you can do.
Frozen. It's like going into the toilet. It's very interesting. I don't know if there's more to that or if that was intentional, but after that we're taken straight to the current time, and we see Ravonna in the elevator, and then we see a bunch of smoke, and we are brought into a room, and soon enough we get to see it's okay. This is where the timekeepers are, and you get a little Bill and Ted vibe out of that, and then it cuts to the credit scene. So stop there, get you guys feedback on what you thought of the opening cold open. Brett, start with you. Since you're warmed up.
With the Minuteman turned judge, it's hard to say if that's just a different variant. Like, it doesn't mean like that's the only variant if it's the same across the board. So I don't know if it's the same one, because if that one froze, they might have off that one, went got a different one. I don't know how they do it.
Yeah. Okay.
To keep it short and sweet, I did like how they had Sylvia. She looked like a kid. She looked scared. She looked like she had no idea what was happening. I'm sure everybody that comes through there has no idea what's happening, but they gave a good look on her being scared, not understanding, and where her hatred for them comes from.
Yeah, totally. Morgan?
Yeah, no, I think the opening really cemented that. I'm going to say that these are bad guys or a bad organization. I mean, one, we've only really seen them take adults until now they're taking this child, which seems weird because what is she doing to cause an event that would need her to be erased?
While she's playing with toys.
While she's just playing with toys.
Yep, that's a big question posed in this episode.
I think her getting away, and that Eric will probably know that little girl that played Sylvie was Judith on Walking Dead. So I'm sure he'll recognize her. But her escaping, I think will show. I think that is the same Minutemen. I think it's the same one. I don't think it's a different variant.
Me
and
too.
I think maybe the hesitation was
Why would you promote them?
yeah, that lets me escape.
You're fired.
That's what's really interesting is she's now like in charge of the TVA basically after that.
Yeah,
so.
I think her getting away and her hesitation of not doing anything could be part of the whole. They're just people that were taken from Earth or wherever, and maybe there was just something inside her that was like, I can't go hunt down a child. This just doesn't seem right. After you clearly see she's just an innocent kid. And then at the end, when you see the timekeepers, I remember sitting there and, watching it with my son, you see the glowing red eyes and the mist and the fog. And he goes, "Ooh, they're bad, aren't they?" Like, yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And we'll get more into, cause we get to see it much better, clearer shots on.
Mm-hmm.
I almost said obviously. I'll give myself.
Would you stop saying it when you almost say it?
Well, at least I catch myself. Okay. So great opening. It really, as a parent, Morgan, you even attested to it. As a parent, it just feels different probably watching it, seeing them take a kid.
It definitely gives villain vibes taking
Oh
it.
yeah.
It totally changes the tone right off the bat. All right. And then so after the opening scroll or whatever you want to call it, we're taken back to Lamentus, and the two Lokis are sitting there at the end of the world. They have
it. I feel fine.
They have an incredible conversation. And the line from Sylvie goes, is it what makes a Loki is that we're destined to lose. And Tom Hiddleston's Loki says, I don't think we're destined to lose, or something along the lines of, I don't know if we're destined to lose, but we are destined to survive. And that's been very apparent throughout the MCU, as you have seen Loki survive over and over and over again. And at that point, an incredible shot, which has been altered from the trailer like crazy. It was actually a very beautiful shot of the end of this world. And before that, Sylvie gives the backstory of where she came from. She talked about being taken as a kid, and she learned to hide in these apocalypses. And she has this beautiful line that says, "I learned to hide in the ends of the world," or something along those lines. And it just hits you hard. And right before the moon that's crashing into that planet hits, Sylvie touches Loki in a like kind of a romantic way ish, right? And maybe a emotional way on the arm. And the scene is cut back and forth between them and the TVA. Mobius is at the TVA. They're trying to desperately find the Lokis. You see Hunter B-15. She's like, we have to find him. We have to find him. You're starting to see her emotions come out in this episode, and you'll see why later. And she touches Loki, and it creates this upward, like this branch that went straight up. And even Mobius says, you ever seen a branch like that?
Right.
Now, they don't know what it is. So they open 2 doorways, and the next thing we see is an homage of the first time Loki was captured by S.H.I.E.L.D. in the Avengers movie, being brought down the hallway. You see Sylvie in the same kind of slow motion being taken down the hallway, and they're brought in. So I'll stop there, get you guys quick reaction on that whole scene. What do you think that these two falling for each other is what created that Nexus event, that branch in the timeline? Morgan, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. That's what I'm thinking. So I'm replacing that one word with definitely now. But, and, Stemp, it might have been you actually that I was talking to, where somebody was pointing out that it might not be love in the sense of, I want to date you, but it could be just more of that we're not alone feeling. Which they've always just felt alone. Okay. So I apologize for stealing your thunder if that was your thought.
I actually don't know if that was me, because I feel like they're definitely like they want to.
That was my thunder.
Kiss.
Thank you.
They want to kiss. I definitely they want to kiss.
But no, that definitely created something. I mean, we've all learned from Back to the Future. You're not supposed to interact with your counterpart when you're time traveling or whatever it may be. So I think that definitely kicks something off. And I also like the actress that plays B-15. I can't pronounce her. I'm not going to try to pronounce her name.
It's so hard, but she does such a fantastic job.
She does a fantastic job. She was in that Lovecraft Country show on HBO, which she's phenomenal in that as well. But I like seeing her almost frantic as we start to see her, something's going on. Something's going on with her, which is exciting, which, we'll lead up to that. But
yeah, she was so stoic in the beginning.
And Disney, of course, did a great job of, their trailers and their stuff punking us, because everybody thought he was talking to Black Widow in the trailer.
I know that scene got altered like crazy. Yeah. Okay, Brett, what'd you think?
I feel like I lost all my thoughts between when you started and we got to. I had one. I need to start writing these down when you're talking.
What did you think about Loki and Sylvie together, creating that branch in the timeline?
Well, I think that's
a big part of that whole series of events.
Well, I think that's ultimate narcissism. Like, you've got to love yourself a whole lot to love yourself like that, I guess. And I don't know if it's love or what it is. It was at least a connection. And I think it was just a connection that shot that branch. Yep. That suddenly that it was a different timeline that and I don't know how you snap that, because they could have come in and took them away, but you could put anything you want in the ground. Nothing can take away the emotional, I guess, connection. You can't snap that branch or take it back to zero. What was the first part of that what we talked about? Because there was something. How'd that scene start, I guess?
Well, Sylvie was talking about her background. She was running from the TVA. She learned to hide in the ends of 1,000 worlds. That's what she said. Mobius and Hunter B-15 are trying to find him. That's basically all we covered. Were you taking a nap?
No,
you were napping, weren't you?
His brain just shut off.
No, it was one of those things about, like, I had a point I wanted to hold on to, and I held on to it for so long. It was like God.
Dissipate. Well, maybe you can find it again as we move on in the show.
Before we move on, I want to ask both of you, and this we definitely talked about Stump, and maybe we can leave it up to their nerds out listening that maybe saw it and we didn't. So we're just assuming all the time bombs she sent were like, we're good to go. They cleaned it up. Like they're like, we don't need to show any of that. Everything's back to normal. Because I don't remember them mentioning it. Like, that was crazy. We had to clean it. It was just kind of gone.
It's definitely a loose thread. Unless I went back and watched the episode, and couldn't really find anything. I watched Easter egg videos. Nobody addressed it. I'm like, did I miss something?
I don't understand what would be if you sent them everywhere, what would you clean up? There's nothing they would just. There's got to be some aftermath, of something,
Like it almost seems like it was a completely pointless.
I mean, it created it showed the sacred timeline, and it showed 40 branches coming off of them. So what was the result of all those branches? The next thing we see is, it looks like it's a little unstable and it's shaking, but it doesn't have all those branches coming off of them. So we don't know the
repercussions yet.
Yeah, maybe we don't know the repercussions yet. And I will say this about the loving yourself. A big thing about being able to take care of other people and maybe even being in a committed relationship and being able to take care of that other person is.
It's about to get wholesome here, folks. Get ready.
You have to love yourself first before you can love others. The more you know, right? Write that down.
Go, Joe.
So I think that this show is going to cover that in a way that Loki's never really loved himself. He's never really loved anybody else. He's maybe never even really experienced love. He even says later on, this is new for me. Blah, 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 blah. He was about to tell Sylvie he loves her before he gets pruned, but I think that's just going to be a little underlying theme of the show is you need to love yourself before you can love others. So the Lokis are brought back to the TVA. They're put in their respective areas. Mobius and Loki get into it a little bit. They feel like each one of them betrayed each other. It's like, if friends got into a fight, like F you, no F you kind of thing. But Loki tries to he tries to trick Mobius into not pushing him into that time portal where he's going to go into a time loop with Lady Sif. And Mobius doesn't buy it, and he moves on, and he goes back to Ravana's office. But you could tell Mobius is cracking a little. He's in Ravana's office, and he says, "Why didn't you let me interview C20, Hunter C20 or something?" He's asking all these questions, and you could tell Ravana is like, "Who is this Mobius that I'm talking to? This is not the normal Mobius. Mobius before, he's always been he follows orders, blah blah blah." And so this kind of Mobius puts her a little bit stand backish, and then she turns it into where she thinks she's going to remanipulate Mobius by saying, I don't want to see you hurt, blah, 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 blah. So that whole scene was really, really good between Ravana and Mobius. And then on the other side of that, Hunter B-15 goes into Sylvie's interrogation room. They go to the Roxcart apocalypse of 2050 with the hurricane, and she goes, "What did you do to me?" And she goes, I just gave you access to your memories," or whatever she said. "I gave you access to your memories so you could see what your life was like before and do it again." So she shows her real memories, and really beautiful scene with the rain coming down, tears coming down. She says, I looked happy. Stop there. What did you think of these two scenes? Actually, sorry. Let's add in the great return of Jamie Alexander as Sif and Loki. So you have the Loki and Sif scene, you have the Sylvie and Hunter B-15, and then the Ravana and Mobius scene. I'll start with you, Brett, before you lose your thoughts.
It's too late. He's frozen.
I don't think it was a trick at the beginning with Loki and Morbius. Like, I don't think it was a trick at all. I think he was trying to be genuine and telling him what he thought was the truth. I don't think it was a trick.
Okay. I like it.
And then when Morbius in the judges' chambers, you could definitely tell he was starting to crack. I mean, he definitely was starting to at least question things in the first. It's the first steps to cracking is questioning the authority.
Yeah.
And so you can definitely tell that with the Hunter scene and Sylvia. It was definitely
Sylvie.
We've
been getting names wrong all day, so it doesn't really matter.
As long as they know what I'm talking about. Well, I guess let me back up because I think the Sif scene was first. That was the first time she's been back since Thor 2, I think.
Thor 2, yep.
And
well, if you don't count Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but I don't count it.
I think that was after that.
Disney doesn't count that.
But anyway, Disney doesn't count. It's not canon.
Yeah.
Thank God she came back. I've been wondering, like, it was like she was just gone.
Yeah.
And I'm glad now she didn't actually come back. That was a replay of one event over and over and over.
Sure. Yeah. It's good to see her character.
It was good to see her character, and I hope she does come back.
She is confirmed for Love and Thunder.
Right, and she should be because it should be Sif, Enchantress, and Jane Foster. If you're going to call a movie Love and Thunder, you've got to.
It's got to give all Thor's loves.
Yeah, you got to get them all in.
Yeah.
But that was a good scene. I think it gets better as Loki tries to.
I really feel for him.
Yeah, you really feel for him because I mean you've seen the growth he's had, and then the last scene with Hunter and Sylvie in the rain and trying to just accessing the memories. What's the best way to say this? It was like remnants of Ernest Goes to Camp in the Rain, where he sings, "I'm awfully glad it's raining."
Was it Remnants or Reminisce?
The tears.
Reminisce.
I don't know.
Remnants.
It was a nice scene. She's broken by far because she's beyond questioning. She's not even questioning authority. She knows it's wrong.
Yeah. When you think about like almost every sci-fi movie, the human element of those movies is always humans. They can't not human, right? So you can't erase memories. You can't, and if they ever get like a glimmer of it, it's like you could always see, it's like a flood. And so this scene, it was just like that, and it beautifully played by them. So, and I will say this, maybe I felt for Loki so much because last night Penny kicked me in my balls one time and I thought I was going to die. And he gets kneed in the balls over and over again by Sif. So I can't even imagine the amount of pain he's in. So Morgan, what did you think?
I think it was great. It really shows that Loki is a guy that just needs to really be broken to come back and be a hero, so to speak. He has to be beat up. He has to claw back. And you see that with the time loop of just getting beaten. Finally, he's just like, listen, I know I'm an a-hole, like you see that emotion. But before that, before he gets thrown in there, when he really breaks Owen Wilson, and when he says, hey, none of you are created here. You're all time variants. And he's just like, when he talks in the judge's chamber and he wants to speak to the agent that Sylvie took over, and they're like, oh, she's dead. She just deteriorated. It's like, well, he's like, wait, what? Like she was okay when I talked to her.
Yeah.
Like,
and I'm trying to remember, was that scene before or after the Sif scene?
That was seen before.
It was. Okay. So that's a pretty important scene is when he was, he revealed that they're all variants.
Because that's when he thought it was weird.
The hunter asked him about
that's what started the cracking of Mobius, really.
Yeah.
Okay. Because you could see he's like leaning forward when he says it, and then he goes, "Now you're just messing with me." Okay, you're right. Yeah. Good point.
And then again, credit to the hunter the actors who we talked about, just that scene when they didn't have to show the memory, and she was able to just display it all in her face. The emotion she was going through. I mean, it was great. Like you felt it, you didn't have to see it. You felt it and you knew. And again, it comes back to that whole, the humans and free will. Cause if the timekeepers are controlling everything, in theory, there's no free will.
Right. Neo is not,
which is a side. Yeah. But it's just that whole, the humans just over time, we always have that urge to no, we do things our way, our own way. Nobody's controlling us. And it's really coming out now.
Yep. Great points. I like it. So in the judges' chambers, also need to mention Mobius switched out the Tempats. So he goes off into the library to watch, and he sees the video of Ravonna giving the order to prune Hunter C20, and it confirms to him that shit ain't right. So he goes over to Loki in Asgard, and it just, this whole episode, just like every scene had at least one line that was just incredible. But it was the line where Mobius says to Loki, you could be anybody, even somebody good, just in case somebody told you different. Hit me in the feels big time. And it hit Loki in the feels big time, because you can see the look on his face after getting kneed in the balls 700 times.
He's numb. It's numb.
At some point, you just don't feel pain. He's
sterile but numb.
Not able to have kids.
Yeah.
You can see the smile on his face when he says that, and it's just a beautiful scene. And you know what? Mobius probably knows at this point that he's gonna get pruned, but he's able to turn Loki back, get him focused with that line. They go back into the interrogation room. Ravonna's there with the Minuteman, and another beautiful scene with Mobius. I mean, Owen Wilson knocked it out of the park in this episode, and he says, you know where I'd go? He answers the question that Ravonna asked him in the chambers. You know where I'd go if I could go anywhere? I'd go back to my life before the TVA. Quite honestly, if we saw him on a jet ski right then, it would have been perfect. But we'll get if we don't get a jet ski, Owen Wilson on a jet ski scene at some point in this show.
It's probably gonna go back to
what's it worth?
Right.
Probably gonna what?
Go back to him in old school. Him and
Luke Wilson was in Old School. Oh, do you mean Wedding Crashers?
Yeah, Wedding Crashers.
Yeah. He'll be at a wedding dancing. So Mobius gets pruned, and I was shocked. I did not see that coming. It was one of those Ravonna then takes Loki, and they get Lady Loki, Sylvie, and they start their path down to the timekeepers, and they're in the elevator. And one of the big questions from the show is, what caused the Nexus event to have Sylvie be taken at such a young age? So Sylvie in the elevator asks, what was my Nexus event? And Ravonna, and this is like
true villain fashion.
I was peeling off the villain mask, peeling off her villain mask. I don't remember. And with a smirk in her face.
When the whistle blows, the bullshit card comes out.
Yeah. And then, so let's get your reaction. Start with you, Morgan, before we get into the timekeepers' chambers. What'd you think? What do you think? So many good lines in that series.
Yeah. Owen Wilson was great. He did a great job, and it was fun seeing him come to that realization. And to think just moments before all that happened, when he pulled Loki out of the time loop for the first time, and Loki gives him the BS story of oh, it's all my plan. We met, blah blah blah, and then he tells Loki, we got rid of Sylvie. We did that for you. Don't worry. And you see Loki kind of break.
And he's like,
yeah. And you see Owen Wilson just start laughing back to the narcissist. And he goes, the most narcissistic thing you can do is literally fall in love with yourself.
He says, what a seismic narcissistic thing to do. Yeah.
You fall in love with yourself.
It's going to, of course it breaks reality. It's breaking my reality right now.
Yeah. And to go
God,
from
he
that to
killed
all of a
this
sudden
episode.
that break of like he knows they're in the wrong. And yeah, that shot, I did not expect him to go when he zaps. I was like, oh, all right, here we go. We're playing. And it shows how cold I can't think of her name.
Ravana.
Yeah, Ravana got
Yeah.
from the time of letting the child go to now, like this person she clearly likes gone.
Yeah.
See ya.
Yeah.
And we also, then she puts out the order to get B-15 because we don't know where she went. We just know she talked to Sylvie at some point and now is gone. No, it was great. It was a good. It's really ramping it up.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You awake, Brett?
On to you.
That was a good one.
Hold for applause.
It's like that scene in Parks and Rec when the robot politician in Parks and Rec.
Oh no, I'm thinking of The Office where Dale's like, "Oh wow, boy, did that person get him or herself into a lot."
Him or herself.
Yeah,
into it.
Do you know the scene in Parks and Rec with the robot politician where he's just staring at the wall? You guys don't remember that? I'll send it to you afterward. Anyway,
I haven't watched it.
One thing I do want to point out before, and I'm not sure at what point it was a real one-liner, and BT kind of turned me on to it when I were talking about it. Is Morbius says something about we've dealt with werewolves. And
the vampires.
And this is the first time that vampires are kind of even said.
Mm-hmm.
It's the second mention of vampires. Korg and Ragnarok said vampires.
Oh well, he was doing it completely different.
Still a second mention of vampires.
Okay. But this is but TVA is something completely different. And
for sure.
That brings us to Morbius and or Blade, however they decide to go.
Yeah. When he said vampires, I was like, Blade, yes.
Yeah.
So good call out there, Brett.
Good call out there, BT.
Good call out there, BT. Okay, so go ahead.
Coming out of the scene though, coming out of the Sith world.
Yeah.
It was a good kind of exchange where he says, "Do you trust me?" And then they kind of go off together.
And he says, I gotta trust the word of two Lokis.
I wonder, there had to be some plan in between walking through the door and then getting zapped. Because it was like you wouldn't say, "Hey, do you trust me?" Walk through the door, I'm dead within 30 seconds. There had to have been something between those two moments.
I think Mobius knew he was going to get pruned. I don't think he knew right then, but also he knows where I think he knows where he's going to go if he gets pruned. So I think he needed to get Loki back focused, and he back on his mission to go with Sylvie. And he knew he was going to get pruned. Maybe not right then, but he knew he was going to get pruned, and he just needed to get Mobius or Loki back on track.
So it was like a Avengers 1 Coulson kind of situation. He's like, yeah, I'll take one for the team.
Totally.
Yeah.
We take one of the sack. I'll take one of the chest.
He took $5 million.
That's a very, very good tie-in there, Brett. Very good analogy, because that's a big scene in Loki's history is the Coulson scene.
Yeah.
So very good callback there. All right, so then we get into the Timekeeper's chambers, and listen, it looked cool, but right off the bat, you're like,
this is a goddamn Wizard of Oz.
This is, I feel like I'm at Wizard of Oz, Chuck E. Cheese, something
Chuck
along.
E. Cheese.
Like
the
these
big difference between the Wizard of Oz and a singing mouse.
Maybe I got Chuck E. Cheese vibes when they cut the head off of the guy, and it's revealed they're robots and animatronics, and it's just like.
And they move like this.
Yeah. I mean,
happy birthday.
One of those guys had a mustache like the Lorax. So, it's
spoke for the trees.
Yeah, but very Wizard of Ozzy. Like the man behind the curtain is It's not what you think. And, the smoke and the lights and the deep voices, it all felt very Wizard of Oz-y. That's a great point. So, then Hunter B-15 bursts through the door in a really great action moment for her, or our hero moment for her. And she unleashes the collars, and then we get into some fighting with Loki and the Minutemen. Loki's and the Minutemen. And then Ravonna and Sylvie get into it. Each one almost having the chance to prune each other. Finally, Ravonna gets the upper hand, or Loki gets the upper hand, Sylvie gets the upper hand, and throws the sword, cuts the head off, and it's revealed these are some Chuck E. Cheese type animatronic shows. That's not, it's not.
This ain't your birthday.
This ain't your birthday. And so at that point, you're like,
we do not reuse our pieces.
Are the timekeepers real? B, who's running the TVA right now? Who created the TVA? All these questions, all in a matter of moments, because right after that, Loki and Sylvie are talking. Loki looks like he's about to profess his love for Sylvie, and he gets pruned. And I feel like Sylvie and Ravonna have another quick battle.
Yeah, very quick.
And Sylvie gets the upper hand, and she says, "Now you're going to tell me everything." And it cuts to black, and it's the end of the episode until the mid-credit scene, which we'll get to. So let's get quick reactions on the end of that, and then we'll talk mid-credit scene. Go ahead, Brett.
Well, the first question I got is, what happened to Hunter? She busts in, she frees him. But I don't remember. I mean, I feel like she fought. And she threw her stick and then just disappears.
Deuces. Just pieced out.
And I don't remember it feels like someone came and took my memory.
What happened? What did happen to her?
It was the TVA.
My memory. So, I don't know. She's done.
Mm-hmm. I'd have to go back and watch. I'm going to have to go back and watch that again.
I mean, maybe a knockout off screen type thing, fight. She was taking on two guys. So maybe it was just they all.
Did she get pruned? Because she, I didn't see her.
I don't remember seeing her.
I don't remember seeing her.
I feel like they would have showed her.
I feel like they would have shown it. I think they go one of two ways. She either got pruned and they'll show it in the beginning of the episode, or she just got rendered unconscious and she'll wake up and help Sylvie in the next episode. It's one of those two things.
We'll see. Okay, good question. I like that.
And then as far as the TVA and the three Chuck E. Cheese robots. I think it's funny that everyone's been. I mean, it's got to be Kang the Conqueror. It's got to be.
That's what I'm going with.
It's got to be. And I know everyone's been trying to make the analogy that the middle one looks a lot like him and whatnot. I mean, I'm sure he made him in their image.
Not in the robot version. That did not look like him, but like the cartoon and the statues.
Right.
And the cartoon and the statues look like Jonathan Majors.
And so, I feel like it's got to be him. I mean, it's just a theory, but I feel like it's got to be him. And I don't understand why he's never struck me as someone who needs pageants to win people over. He was always someone that felt like, I'm King the Conqueror. I'm here to conquer. I ain't hiding behind the Wizard of Oz. So that's the only thing.
That is a good point. That is not something he would need to do. Yeah. Okay.
He's the one that he wants to let you know I'm in charge.
Right.
So that's the only thing that would kind of make me think it's not King the Conqueror, but I feel like it's got to be. But and then as far as Loki,
change it out.
Yeah, as far as Loki getting pieced, I didn't see that coming.
No, that was another
That was another one-liner. Well, not one-liner, one shot that I didn't see coming.
Mm-hmm.
It was definitely they do a good job of walking the line between telling yourself I love you and not telling yourself I mean, I don't know where we sit on the PG rating, but there's a word that starts with M that I feel like I've wanted to say 100 times during the course of this.
Don't do it.
I didn't. I will leave it with an M word. And the M word is Morgan. Go ahead, Morgan.
I'm going to say this. Yeah. This episode gave me a Loki bony. Okay, and
I never.
I will love myself with that Loki bounty. Okay,
I need the TVA to show up right now and destroy this timeline after hearing that. No, it's like I had the same question. What happened to B-15? She disappeared. Again, a good reminder that I learned from Zombieland: double tap. When you're fighting somebody, make sure they're done. People need to learn this, especially in the Marvel universe.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You know, that the shock of Loki, I didn't expect that. You know, that did surprise me. And there was I'm running with the theory that this is a Kang controlled organization, and he uses them to help him conquer timelines.
Yeah.
That, you know, these resets they're doing is just literally them going in and conquering these timelines, and they don't realize it. You know, whatever it may be, and he's using them to, you know, just can't do it all himself, needs a little help.
I'll say this, like Mephisto was the big WandaVision thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kang is actually confirmed to be a character coming up in the MCU. Mephisto was never confirmed. Kang is actually confirmed to be in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. It makes sense that he would be introduced before then as a giant character, you know, so there's at least some logic to it being Kang and not, you know, and the whole Mephisto thing was just blown out of proportion, and he was never confirmed to be in the future of the MCU or anything like that. So there's some legitimacy to it being Kang, and I just don't know. You know, and then it could also be like WandaVision, where we get to the end of Loki and we don't see Mephisto, we don't see Kang, and it's just what they've shown us. So who knows?
Yeah, and I don't think we'll see Kang, but I think it's more of like that Thanos lead up, you know, where like they kind of hint at him throughout it, and then they start to like, here's a little, here's his face, here's his, you know,
where he's like, oh, humans are not to be trifled with, and then he just turns and smiles, or no, it's to mess with them is to court death, and then you just
exactly.
I feel like that's how it's going to end, which I'm fine with. That's the lead up.
Yeah, for sure.
So
I feel like there was another point in there I was going to make, but so once Loki got pruned, that showed me that Mobius is coming back because Loki's obviously more in the show, and we get. I said obviously.
I didn't bring a drink.
You owe us a drink, Morgan.
I know.
You actually owe us one from the podcast last week too. Okay, so then we get our first mid-credit scene of the show, and it's this amazing scene where Loki wakes up and he thinks he's in hell, and if you watch it with closed captioning on, it's spelled with one L, so that's the Norse hell, which is cool that they mentioned that. And he says to himself, he says, am I dead? And you hear a voice off screen that says, no, but you will be if you don't come with us. And it shows a plethora of Lokis, four Lokis. You have alligator Loki, you have boastful Loki, who has a version of Mjolnir, it looks like, and you have Kid Loki, and then you have Richard E. Grant as classic Loki in the most beautiful like Halloween costume I've ever seen. So
it's like very WandaVision.
It's very WandaVision-esque with their costumes, and actually maybe looks a little bit more legitimate than those ones. And then the in scene. What did you guys think of the mid-credit scene?
It was big. It was big. You know, I'm excited to see. Well, I want to see where Owen went. I'm hoping he's in a world where there's like Lightning McQueen for Cars and his character from Zoolander. You know, just all
that would be awesome. Yeah,
that would be it was neat to see. You know, all the Lokis, and it really throws you for a loop too, because we all just assume these people are just being erased from existence. They cease to be. But I don't know if everybody's going somewhere, if there's a way to alter these things, and Lokis are just being sent somewhere, right? For whatever reason. But and that also appeared to be a New York apocalyptic world, because there was the blown up Avengers Tower.
Yep.
So it could be one where the nuke went off.
An important note on that is it's the Avengers Tower from at least Age of Ultron. It's not the Avengers Tower from 2012. So this is not, I don't think that this is an apocalyptic future if Loki had won that battle. The Avengers Tower, it had the upper helicarrier pad on it that was not there in the 2012 Loki. So
interesting.
Go ahead, Brett. What do you think of the mid-credit scene?
Boy, did that person get him or her
him or her
into a pickle. I want to back up to the alligator one. That's a playoff of the Throg.
Yep. I want to see Frog Thor. Yeah. I do. I want to see Frog Thor so bad. Just because why not? If you got an alligator Loki, show me Thor as a frog.
And which Loki was talking?
That was definitely Richard E. Grant's voice.
Okay. I was hoping it was alligator Loki.
So I'm wondering when you get pruned, if you get put with all your variants, because he definitely went with his variants.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that makes me wonder where Owen went to. I mean, he's got to be with his variants.
Right. Or is this where all variants get pruned? Is this like the pruned variant?
I can't feel like that's true, because
why would it be 4 Lokis there when he wakes up?
Exact same Lokis, not exact, but 4 Lokis there.
Right.
When he wakes up.
And I feel like that'd be too dangerous as well to have all the people go to the same area. I mean, eventually you're going to have, especially in a place like that, like where there is probably technology laying around. I mean, it's a developed area that just went through something that they could find a way out somehow.
But it can't be an actual place, because otherwise it would have a timeline. It can't be in time.
An apocalypse place.
It could be an apocalypse place, because apocalypses don't have variant energy.
But how would it still be there if it's if he stays there and they die?
Yeah, so you've seen it. It doesn't need to be where the world goes away like Ragnarok. There was different apocalypse events that were apocalyptic events where
like Asgard.
Well, Asgard was a Ragnarok, and that they had a scale of apocalypse.
Like Pompeii. I mean, the Earth didn't go away with Pompeii.
Right.
But then what I mean is, like, there's got to be something. They won't need him to move, or he will be dead. So it's got to be an apocalyptic event. But if it's on the scale of time, they clearly already know it's coming.
Okay, so this I think that brings back to another point. I think the sacred timeline is total bullshit.
Right, that's what I'm driving at.
Yeah, there's the sacred. I mean, everything about the TVA is bullshit. There is nothing.
I think what it is them going through and pruning anything that could be more powerful than Kane.
Right.
I think it's him going through and picking off the ones that might be
So that leads back to who's running the TVA.
Whoever happens to be,
why.
Whoever happens to be running it, if it's Kane, then they're going through it and finding the ones. I don't know why alligator Loki is we got to get that one out of this time.
What was his Nexus Event?
You've ever been bitten by an alligator?
It's called a death roll. Death roll.
That's why.
I read an interesting theory that it may not be Kang at the head of the TVA, that it's like the real true evil Loki is at the head of the TVA, and he knows that Lokis are Nexus beings and that they are a threat to him having the ultimate power in the universe. And so he's going back through time, taking all the Lokis that could be a threat to him and putting them in this world where they're all together and not a threat. Not saying that's the theory I believe. I read it and I was like, that's very interesting, and it's very possible.
Show us the face you made when you thought that was interesting, like you're reading it right now. For those of you on podcast, he's touching his lips with his finger while he thinks, and he's staring off into space. Now it's very sexual, but it wasn't at first. It's like chapstick. Okay.
That's what I'm afraid of. Afraid of getting a boner. Bring her back to office.
A little Loki boning.
Left voting.
Okay. I think we have covered a ton on this episode. This is definitely our longest review yet. And it is a lot. The final, here's what what we were saying the other night, Morgan, is what I love about
terrible.
God, that's exactly what we were saying the other night.
Where is it going?
I mean, playing with it didn't help at all, Brett. There's nothing you did.
Yeah, you did.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
Eric, I need you to edit this out. All of this.
He'll add some hair there.
We recorded for 2 hours earlier, Morgan, and now we're coming up on an hour for this. So 3 hours. It took 3 hours for Brett to find his bald spot. I'd say that's not bad. What I love about this show is there's a few things. One, I think this is the nerdiest show I've watched in a very long time. Two, I feel like in WandaVision, I still had a slight idea of where the show was going. Like, I knew it was a pocket reality. I knew certain things. I knew it wasn't going to introduce the X-Men. I thought it was going to be Mephisto. I was very wrong on that. I have no idea where this show is going in these final 2 episodes. You know, I'm as lost as I was watching Lost, and I love that. I love that I have no idea what's going on. So I'm very excited for these final 2 episodes. What about you guys? Final thoughts before we move on?
I mean, yeah, I'm really interested to see what they do with it, where they're going, you know, and, you know, we talked about it a little bit, and, you know, you can leave it up to the people watching to see what they think, but is Loki done in the movies? Because this is the only show confirmed to get a second season. Nobody else is. So it makes me wonder if we're not going to see him on the big screen again. And he's just, this is it, his new adventure.
And he's confirmed to not be in Love and Thunder.
Right. Right. So we'll see. I mean, we'll see what they're setting up.
Yeah. Brett?
I would say this episode finally brought me over the edge between saying I've liked WandaVision the most and Falcon Winter Soldier. And then when this one came, I think I immediately liked it more than Falcon Winter Soldier. But now I think I have it above WandaVision. Yeah,
me too. This episode definitely brought it up to number 1 for me.
And as far as him not being cast in Thor: Love and Thunder, I think eventually you've got to have Thor know his brother's alive. I feel like you can't let him go out seeing his brother get strangled by Thanos.
I think that they can skip a movie with the TV show. I don't think he needs to. I mean, maybe he finds out in Love and Thunder that he's
got to find out. I think he's got to find out that he
doesn't need to be there for him to find out. Though.
Right.
I don't think right. I'm not saying he needs to be there. I'm just saying eventually, if you're going to close that chapter in that book, you've got to at least.
That would actually be a really great way to end that movie, where he finds out Loki's alive and he's like, "I'm going to go find Loki."
Mm-hmm.
It could be. I mean, that would be an adventure for next time. It would be a good place to take him off planet to let Jane Foster be worthy Thor for a little while if that's the direction they're going.
Oh yeah, and she'll be the Thor.
That is true. Yeah, if they're looking to, so to speak, end Thor, you know, his little character arc.
And then you
so many places.
My family's. Yeah. I know I have family alive. I'm out.
I need to go find him. Yeah, you be Thor on Earth.
He becomes Liam Neeson, and he goes and gets him.
That's it. I'm pretty sure you wrote this.
$2 billion done.
Yeah. Calling up Kevin now.
Yeah. I think we're all in agreement that this is now taking the place over WandaVision. Like WandaVision, I remember watching it and I'm just like, this is amazing. Falcon Winter Soldier was a great show. I loved it. It didn't have the weirdness to it. It was just more of the straightforward MCU action. But I still loved it. Didn't love it more than WandaVision. Not saying that it was bad, but WandaVision just had that I don't know what the hell's going on, and I'm really excited to find out. And it didn't stick the landing as much as I'd like, but I'm hoping Loki can overcome that, and I think it will. Yeah. What'd you say? A Tanya Harding situation?
It like sticks the landing, breaks the knee.
At the opposite of sticking the land.
Yeah. I don't think that. I'm not sure that worked.
How many figure skating references do you think I know in my life? I mean,
well, that's true.
You got Mighty Ducks, but I can't remember that kid's name.
Yeah.
Charlie.
No, he wasn't the figure skater.
No.
We need to end this. We are off topic.
Yeah.
They had three figure skaters in that. They had two in the first one, and then the Asian guy in the second one. Right?
No, one in the first one in the second one, and she was in the second one.
They had two figures. They had a brother and sister figure skater combo.
No, the brother wasn't a figure skater. That was the kid from Pete and Pete. We're way off subject now.
Yeah,
we need to cut this. This is where the cold open should be.
How about that Goldberg?
Okay. Thank you, fellas, for joining the review for episode 4 called The Nexus Event. Go enjoy your Loki bonies all by yourself. And that's
a bologna sandwich.
I hope everyone enjoyed their 4th. And if you're overseas, I hope you enjoyed whatever it is you celebrate.
Yeah. Happy 4th of July.
Happy 4th, Loki.
Oh.
Happy Loki Boney Day.
Happy Loki.
Cut it, Eric.
No.
Black screen.
You can't have enough Loki bonies.
Do a voiceover for every time he says that, please.
Oh, that's my new favorite term. Okay. I need to go, and I'll talk to you guys later. Love you.
Thanks.